Isaac Scott's fingers brush against the ornate control panel, and the doors to the Elysian Royal bathing chamber slide open with a soft hiss. The 28-year-old human diplomat freezes, realizing his grave error. He stumbled into a restricted area of the Elysian Royal starship, far from the designated diplomatic quarters aboard the USS Harmony. His first instinct is to retreat, to avoid an interstellar incident that could jeopardize the delicate negotiations between Earth and Elysia. But the sight before him stops him in his tracks. The chamber is a massive cavern filled with shimmering pools of bioluminescent liquid. The alien beauty overwhelms his senses, drawing him in despite the risks. Isaac glances over his shoulder. The corridor behind him remains empty. Heart pounding, he makes a decision that will alter the course of human-Elysian relations forever. He strips off his uniform, folding it neatly beside one of the smaller pools, and slips into the glowing liquid. The sensation is immediate and intoxicating. The bioluminescent fluid seems to penetrate his very cells, rejuvenating him from the inside out. Isaac closes his eyes, savoring the alien bliss, unaware of the approaching footsteps. Princess Asha of the Elysians enters her private bathing chamber, her iridescent skin shimmering in the soft light. She stops abruptly, her large, mesmerizing eyes widening at the sight of the naked human in her personal pool. Shock gives way to fascination as she studies Isaac's unfamiliar physique. Isaac's eyes snap open. He sees the tall, slender Elysian royal standing at the edge of the pool, her gaze fixed upon him. He moves to exit, but Asha raises a hand, gesturing for him to remain. To Isaac's astonishment, the alien princess begins to remove her royal garments. In the Elysian High Council chamber, hidden sensors relay the unfolding scene. Emergency alarms blare as the council members rush to convene, their voices rising in a cacophony of concern and outrage. General Zorak, leader of the Elysian military faction, sees an opportunity in this crisis. His eyes narrow as he considers how to use this human trespass to push for more aggressive policies. Aboard the USS Harmony, Captain Elena Rodriguez receives an urgent communique from Earth Command. Her face pales as she reads the order to extract Isaac immediately. The potential for an interspecies incident looms large, threatening to unravel years of careful diplomacy. Back in the royal bathing chamber, Princess Asha slips into the pool beside Isaac. Their skin makes contact, sending a jolt through both of their bodies. Neither is aware of the ancient Elysian prophecy they've just set in motion, a foretelling of merged bloodlines that sends ripples of unease throughout Elysian society. As Isaac and Asha remain oblivious to the chaos their encounter has sparked, both human and Elysian factions scramble to contain the situation. The fate of interstellar relations hangs in the balance, all because of one accidental dip in the royal bath. As Isaac and Asha's skin made contact in the bioluminescent pool, an electric current seemed to pass between them. The alien liquid amplified every sensation, creating a connection that transcended their physical differences. Isaac's breath caught in his throat as he gazed into Asha's mesmerizing eyes, losing himself in their otherworldly depths. Unbeknownst to either of them, their intimate encounter was triggering a profound change within Asha's body. Deep within her alien physiology, a dormant biological process stirred to life, initiating a rare Elysian mating cycle. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Harmony, Captain Elena Rodriguez's face hardened as she received the extraction order from Earth Command. She turned to her security chief, Marcus Tanner, her voice tight with urgency. "Assemble a team immediately. We need to get Isaac out of there before this situation spirals out of control." Tanner nodded, his expression grim. "Understood, Captain. We'll use the scheduled diplomatic visit as our cover." As the extraction team boarded the Elysian Royal starship, they were met with increasing resistance. Elysian guards, alerted to the human presence in the restricted area, eyed them suspiciously. Tanner kept his voice calm as he addressed the alien security personnel. "We're here for a routine meeting with your diplomats. Is there a problem?" The Elysian guard's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Our sensors detected unauthorized human biosignatures in a restricted area. We must insist you remain here while we investigate." In the Elysian High Council chamber, General Zorak's voice rose above the din of concerned council members. This human trespass is clearly an act of espionage. We must take immediate action to protect our secrets and our people. His words found purchase among a faction of the council. Within moments, alarms blared throughout the Elysian ship as defensive systems activated, raising shields and powering up weapons. Back in the bathing chamber, the sudden wail of alarms shattered the intimate moment between Isaac and Asha. They jerked apart, reality crashing back upon them. Isaac's eyes widened in panic. "Oh God, what have I done?" Asha, her iridescent skin flushed with a mix of alien hormones and adrenaline, quickly assessed the situation. "We must leave immediately. Your presence here will be seen as a grave offense." They hurriedly dressed, Isaac's hands shaking as he pulled on his uniform. Asha's movements were more controlled, but Isaac noticed a new intensity in her gaze as she looked at him. "I will help you escape," she said, her voice filled with a dedication that surprised even her. "There are hidden passages known only to the royal family. Follow me." As they slipped out of the bathing chamber, Isaac's heart raced. The corridors were a maze of shimmering metal and pulsing bioluminescent lights. Asha guided him with a firm hand on his arm, her touch sending jolts of electricity through his body, even in the midst of their dire situation. They narrowly avoided a patrol of Elysian guards, ducking into a recessed alcove. Isaac held his breath, acutely aware of Asha's alien yet alluring scent, as they pressed close together in the confined space. As the sound of marching feet faded, they continued their perilous journey towards the docking bay. Elsewhere on the ship, Tanner and his extraction team found themselves surrounded by Elysian security forces. The aliens' weapons hummed with scarcely controlled energy, creating a palpable tension in the air. Tanner raised his hand slowly, his voice steady as he addressed the Elysian commander. "There's been a misunderstanding. We're here on a diplomatic mission, nothing more." The Elysian commander's face remained impassive. "Our orders come directly from General Zorak. You will be detained until we locate the human intruder." As Isaac and Asha neared the docking bay, a new figure emerged from the shadows. Dr. Lyra Vex, the chief Elysian scientist, stepped into their path. Isaac tensed, ready to flee, but Asha's calm voice stopped him. "Dr. Vex, what are you doing here?" The scientist's eyes gleamed with curiosity as she regarded the pair. "I detected the activation of your mating cycle, Princess Asha. Fascinating. I never thought I'd see the day when an Elysian and a human—" She trailed off, her gaze shifting to Isaac. "This changes everything. The potential for genetic compatibility, for technological advancements. I want to help you." Isaac's mind reeled at the implications, but there was no time to process the information. The ship's communication system crackled to life, General Zorak's voice booming through the corridors. "Attention all personnel. We have a human intruder aboard. Capture him at all costs. This is now a matter of planetary security." Dr. Vex's expression hardened. "We need to move quickly. I can get you to your shuttle, but we'll have to go through the main engineering section. It's risky, but it's our best chance." As they set off, Isaac caught Asha's eye. The alien princess's gaze was filled with a mixture of fear and something else, a protective intensity that both thrilled and terrified him. Whatever happened next, he realized, their fates were now inextricably linked. The trio moved swiftly through the ship's winding corridors, the sounds of approaching Elysian security forces echoing behind them. With each step, the gravity of their situation became clearer. They weren't just running for Isaac's freedom anymore. They were racing to prevent an interstellar war and protect a connection that could reshape the future of both their species. As Isaac and Asha locked eyes, their shared realization of the gravity of their situation sparked a surge of adrenaline. Dr. Lyra Vex's arrival had shifted the dynamics, offering a glimmer of hope in their increasingly dire circumstances. "We need to move," Dr. Vex urged, her voice low and urgent. "I know a way through the maintenance tunnels that should keep us hidden from Zorak's forces." Without hesitation, the trio set off, slipping into a narrow access hatch that Vex revealed behind a decorative panel. The maintenance tunnels were a maze of dimly lit, cramped passageways, humming with the ship's vital systems. As they navigated the labyrinth, Vex explained the situation in hushed tones. "Princess Asha, The contact with the human has triggered something extraordinary in your biology, she said, her eyes gleaming with scientific fascination. Your body is producing unique pheromones, strengthening the bond between you and Isaac. It's a phenomenon I've only read about in ancient texts. Asha's iridescent skin flushed a deeper hue, her large eyes darting to Isaac. He felt a surge of warmth course through him, the connection between them almost palpable in the close confines of the tunnel. Their progress was swift but cautious. At one point, they emerged into a larger chamber filled with complex machinery and bustling with Elysian engineers. Dr. Vex stepped forward, her authoritative presence commanding immediate attention. This area is now under quarantine, she announced, her tone brooking no argument. All personnel must evacuate immediately for decontamination procedures. The engineers complied without question, filing out of the chamber. As the last one left, Isaac caught a glimpse of suspicion in his multifaceted eyes. His heart rate spiked, knowing their window of opportunity was rapidly closing. They had barely made it through the chamber when General Zorek's voice boomed through the ship's communication system, his words dripping with almost unchecked rage. Attention all personnel. The human intruder has been spotted in the engineering section. Apprehend him and his accomplices immediately. Run, Isaac shouted, all pretense of stealth abandoned. They sprinted through the corridors, the sound of approaching security forces echoing behind them. As they neared the docking bay, they encountered a heavily fortified checkpoint. A dozen guards stood at attention, their weapons raised. Asha stepped forward, her regal bearing on full display. As your princess, I command you to stand down, she ordered, her voice resonating with authority. For a moment, the guards hesitated, caught between their ingrained respect for royalty and their orders. Then Zorek's voice crackled over the intercom once more. The princess has been compromised by human influence. Disregard her commands and detain them all. The guards raised their weapons, and chaos erupted. Isaac, drawing on years of diplomatic training, attempted to defuse the situation. We can commitment this peacefully, he began, but his words were cut short as energy blasts sizzled past his head. Dr. Vex sprang into action, her fingers finding precise points on the nearest guard's body. The Elysian crumpled to the ground, incapacitated. Elysian pressure points, she explained quickly, moving to engage another guard. Isaac found himself grappling with an Elysian soldier, their alien strength nearly overwhelming him. Suddenly, Asha was there, her movements a blur of grace and power. She disarmed the guard with startling ease, her enhanced abilities manifest. The mating cycle, Dr. Vex called out, dodging a blast. It's augmenting her physical capabilities. As they fought, the extraction team led by Marcus Tanner burst onto the scene. Tanner assessed the situation quickly, his tactical mind formulating a plan. Isaac, Dr. Vex, cover our left flank. Princess, if you can clear a path to the right, we'll make a break for the shuttle. They moved as one, human and Elysian tactics blending seamlessly. Tanner's team used non-lethal stun weapons, dropping guards with precision shots. Asha led the charge on the right, her newfound strength and agility clearing a swath through the Elysian defenses. As they neared the shuttle, a deep thrumming resonated through the ship. The tractor beam, Dr. Vex exclaimed. They're trying to trap us here. She hesitated, her gaze shifting between the shuttle and a nearby control room. I can disable it, but I'll need time. You have to go without me. Before Isaac could protest, she was gone, disappearing into the control room. The remaining group fought their way to the shuttle, the docking bay doors now in sight. Isaac and Asha found themselves side by side, their backs against the shuttle's hull as they fended off the last of the guards. Time seemed to slow as their eyes met, the intensity of their connection drowning out the chaos around them. Come with us, Isaac said, the words tumbling out before he could consider their implications. Asha hesitated, torn between duty and desire. In that moment of indecision, a new commotion erupted from the far side of the docking bay. A group of Elysian scientists and diplomats had entered, forming a human chain to block the incoming security forces. Now's our chance, Tanner shouted, already at the shuttle's controls. Isaac grabbed Asha's hand, and together they leapt into the shuttle. As the doors sealed behind them, Isaac caught a glimpse of Dr. Vex emerging from the control room, a triumphant smile on her face as the shuttle lifted off. They burst from the docking bay, the tractor beam sputtering and failing as they gained distance. Through the view screen, the USS Harmony shimmered into view, its experimental cloaking device deactivating to receive them. As the shuttle docked with the Harmony, Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the comms. "Brace for warp jump. We're getting out of here." The stars stretched into streaks of light, and the Elysian vessel vanished behind them. In the sudden quiet of the Harmony's docking bay, Isaac and Asha stood hand in hand, the full weight of their actions settling upon them. They had escaped, but the true challenges, diplomatic, personal, and interspecies, were only just beginning. The realization struck Isaac like a bolt of lightning. They had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. As the adrenaline of their escape began to subside, Captain Elena Rodriguez's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. "All hands prepare for emergency warp jump. Destination, neutral star system in Sector 7 Alpha." The familiar lurch of the warp drive engaging sent a wave of nausea through Isaac's already unsettled stomach. He steadied himself against the bulkhead, his hands still intertwined with Asha's. Her touch grounded him, a reminder of the profound connection they now shared. Minutes later, the Harmony dropped out of warp, taking up a holding pattern around a massive gas giant. The swirling storms visible on the planet's surface seemed to mirror the turmoil in Isaac's mind. "Mr. Scott, Princess Asha," Captain Rodriguez's voice came through again, her tone a mix of concern and authority. "Report to the medical bay immediately for examination." As they made their way through the ship's corridors, Isaac couldn't help but notice the curious glances from the crew. News of their daring escape had clearly spread quickly. The medical bay doors hissed open, revealing Dr. Miranda Chen, her dark eyes sharp with professional interest. "On the biobed, both of you," she instructed, already calibrating her instruments. "I need to run a full spectrum analysis." The scans were thorough and uncomfortable. Isaac felt exposed as the medical sensors probed every cell of his body. Beside him, Asha's iridescent skin shimmered under the harsh lights of the medical bay. Dr. Chen's eyebrows rose as she studied the results. "Fascinating," she muttered, her fingers flying over the console. "The changes in Princess Asha's biology are unprecedented. And you, Mr. Scott, there are subtle alterations in your physiology as well." Before Isaac could ask for clarification, a sudden change came over Asha. Her skin began to emit a faint, mesmerizing glow, and a sweet, intoxicating scent filled the air. Isaac felt an overwhelming pull toward her, his heart racing. "Pheromone spike," Dr. Chen shouted, quickly activating the bay's quarantine protocols. A shimmering force field sprang up around Asha's biobed. "We need to contain this before it affects the entire crew." The doctor's words barely registered with Isaac. His entire being was focused on Asha, her glowing form calling to him on a primal level. He took a step toward her, only to be stopped by Dr. Chen's firm grip on his arm. "Mr. Scott, you need to focus," she said, her voice cutting through the haze. "This is a biological response. We need to understand it before we can control it." A commotion outside the medical bay drew their attention. Through the transparent doors, Isaac could see several crew members gathering, their faces pressed against the glass with expressions of longing. Dr. Chen quickly opaqued the doors, cutting off their view. "This is Dr. Chen to the bridge," she said, tapping her communicator. "Captain, we have a situation in medical. I recommend a ship-wide alert to avoid this area until further notice." As Dr. Chen worked to stabilize Asha's condition, Isaac felt a strange tingling at the base of his skull. It was as if a new sense had awakened within him, allowing him to feel Asha's presence even with his eyes closed. He could sense her confusion, her fear, and underneath it all, a fierce purpose. The medical bay doors slid open, admitting Captain Rodriguez and her senior staff. The captain's eyes widened as she took in the scene before her. "Report, doctor," she demanded, her voice tight with concern. As Dr. Chen explained the situation, Isaac noticed Security Chief Marcus Tanner eyeing him warily. The man's hand rested on his sidearm, a subtle reminder of the potential threat Isaac and Asha now posed. "We need to return the princess to her people immediately," Commander Jared Hawkins, the ship's political officer, interjected. It's the only way to salvage this diplomatic nightmare. Tanner shook his head. And hand them both over to Zorak? That's a death sentence. The argument escalated, voices rising as each officer defended their position. Isaac felt a surge of frustration, not just his own, but Asha's as well. Their shared emotions seemed to amplify, feeding off each other. Suddenly, the ship's red alert klaxon blared to life. Captain Rodriguez's communicator chirped urgently. Bridge to Captain, a tense voice reported. Multiple Elysian warships have entered the system. They're on an intercept course. The captain's face hardened. Battle stations, she ordered. Raise shields and bring weapons online. As the crew rushed to their posts, Isaac felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of danger. It wasn't logical, wasn't based on any external input, but he knew with absolute certainty that the Harmony was in immediate peril. Captain, he called out, his voice strained. There's something else out there. Something we can't see. Rodriguez turned to him, skepticism warring with the need to consider all possibilities. What do you mean, Mr. Scott? Before Isaac could explain, Asha's voice rang out, clear and urgent, despite the force field separating her from the others. He's right. There's a cloaked ship directly above us. The captain hesitated for only a fraction of a second before barking out new orders. Helm, evasive maneuvers, now! The Harmony lurched violently, nearly throwing Isaac off his feet. A moment later, a brilliant energy beam sliced through the space they had just occupied. On the main view screen, a sleek Elysian scout ship shimmered into view, its cloaking device deactivating as it prepared for another attack. Direct hit to our aft section, Tanner reported, his fingers dancing over his console. Warp drive is offline. We're dead in the water. As alarms blared and crew members rushed to contain the damage, Isaac felt a moment of clarity. He turned to Captain Rodriguez, his mind racing with possibilities. Captain, I have an idea, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. But it's risky, and we'll need Dr. Chen's help. Rodriguez met his gaze, weighing her options as the Elysian fleet closed in around them. I'm listening, Mr. Scott. What do you propose? Isaac took a deep breath, acutely aware of Asha's presence in his mind as he began to outline his plan. The fate of two species now rested on their shoulders, and the clock was ticking. Ticking. With a nod from Captain Rodriguez, Isaac took a deep breath and began outlining his plan. We need to broadcast our experiences to the Elysian fleet, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. If we can show them what Asha and I have shared, it might be enough to change their minds about us. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. You're suggesting a psionic broadcast? That's incredibly dangerous, especially given your current condition. Isaac nodded grimly. I know, but it's our only chance. Captain Rodriguez considered for a moment, then gave a sharp nod. Do it. What do you need? As Dr. Chen hurriedly prepared the necessary equipment, Isaac turned to Asha. Their eyes met, and a wordless understanding passed between them. They would face this challenge together, despite the toll. The medical bay hummed with activity as Dr. Chen attached neural interfaces to both Isaac and Asha. The air crackled with tension and the faint scent of ozone. As the final connections were made, Isaac felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. Initiating psionic broadcast, Dr. Chen announced, her fingers flying over the control panel. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Isaac's consciousness expanded, merging with Asha's in a dizzying whirlwind of shared memories and emotions. Their connection deepened, transcending the physical realm and reaching out to the stars beyond. As the broadcast continued, something unexpected began to happen. Isaac's skin began to emit a soft, pulsating glow that matched the rhythm of Asha's iridescent shimmer. The light spread throughout the medical bay, bathing everything in its ethereal radiance. Dr. Chen's eyes widened as she studied her instruments. Captain, you need to see this, she said, her voice filled with awe and a hint of fear. Their cellular structures are aligning in a way I've never seen before. It's as if their bodies are synchronizing at the molecular level. The strain of maintaining the psionic link was evident on both Isaac and Asha's faces. Sweat beaded on their foreheads, and their breathing became labored. Alarms on the medical equipment began to sound, warning of dangerously unstable vital signs. "We need to stop this," Dr. Chen warned, her fingers hovering over the neural interface controls. "If we continue, they could suffer permanent neurological damage, or worse." Isaac's eyes snapped open, his gaze locking with Asha's. Despite the pain etched on their faces, both shook their heads. "We can't stop," Isaac gasped. "Too much at stake." Asha's voice, though strained, carried the weight of royal purpose. "We must continue, for both our peoples." Captain Rodriguez watched the scene unfold, her face a mask of concern and dedication. "How long can they maintain the broadcast?" she asked Dr. Chen. The doctor shook her head. "Minutes at most, but every second increases the risk of—" Her words were cut off by a sudden surge in the psionic energy field. The glow emanating from Isaac and Asha intensified, filling the medical bay with blinding light. On the main view screen, the pursuing Elysian fleet suddenly slowed their advance. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from one of the Elysian warships. They're asking us to stand by." A flurry of activity erupted on the bridge as the crew scrambled to make sense of this unexpected development. In the medical bay, Isaac and Asha remained locked in their psionic trance, their bodies now floating inches above their biobeds, surrounded by a cocoon of swirling energy. Dr. Chen's voice cut through the chaos, urgent and alarmed. "Captain, their vital signs are critical. We need to terminate the broadcast now." Rodriguez hesitated for a split second, torn between the potential diplomatic breakthrough and the lives of her crew members. "Do it," she ordered. As Dr. Chen moved to deactivate the neural interfaces, a new voice crackled over the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Lyra of the Elysian flagship. We request an immediate ceasefire and permission to send a diplomatic envoy to your vessel." The tension on the bridge dissipated slightly, replaced by a cautious hope. Captain Rodriguez straightened her uniform and tapped her communicator. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the USS Harmony. We accept your request for a ceasefire and await your envoy." In the medical bay, Dr. Chen worked feverishly to stabilize Isaac and Asha as the psionic broadcast faded. She administered a potent neural stabilizer to both patients, her brow furrowed with concern as she monitored their readings. "How are they?" Rodriguez asked as she entered the medical bay, her eyes fixed on the two still forms on the biobeds. Dr. Chen shook her head. "Stable for now, but the changes to their physiology are unprecedented. I've never seen anything like it." As if on cue, Isaac's eyes fluttered open, followed moments later by Asha's. They turned to face each other, a silent communication passing between them that transcended words. "Captain," Isaac said, his voice hoarse but steady, "I think we've just changed the course of history." Rodriguez nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I think you might be right, Mr. Scott, but our work is far from finished. The Elysian envoy will be here soon, and we need to be prepared." As the crew of the Harmony braced themselves for the upcoming diplomatic meeting, Isaac and Asha remained in the medical bay, their hands intertwined. The glow that had enveloped them during the psionic broadcast had faded, but a faint shimmer still danced across their skin, a visible reminder of the profound connection they now shared. Dr. Chen approached them, her face a mixture of professional curiosity and personal concern. "I need to run some more tests," she said, calibrating her instruments. "The neural stabilizer I administered seems to have had some unexpected effects." Isaac and Asha exchanged a glance, sensing the weight of the doctor's words. As Dr. Chen began her scans, they both knew that their journey was a long way to go. The true implications of their unique bond were only just beginning to unfold, and the fate of two species now rested in their hands. Hands. The shimmer on their skin pulsed in unison, a visual representation of their deepening connection. A sharp knock at the medical bay door interrupted their moment of quiet contemplation. Captain Rodriguez entered, her face a mask of professional composure, despite the tension evident in her posture. "Mr. Scott, Your Highness warned me," she addressed them. "I need you both to be prepared. The Elysian diplomatic shuttle has just docked. We're about to receive their envoy. Isaac sat up slowly, his muscles protesting the movement. Who's leading the delegation, Captain? Captain Lyra, Rodriguez replied, a note of surprise in her voice. The same officer who initiated contact with us earlier. She's brought along their chief geneticist, Dr. Kyle. Asha's eyes widened at this news. Lyra? She was one of my most trusted advisors before all this happened. If she's here, it means the situation on our world has changed dramatically. As if on cue, Dr. Chen's medical scanner began to beep insistently. She frowned at the readout, tapping the screen to confirm the data. Captain, you need to see this, Chen said, her voice tight with concern. She turned the display towards Rodriguez, pointing out a series of rapidly changing figures. Rodriguez's brow furrowed as she studied the information. What am I looking at, Doctor? Their cellular structures are becoming increasingly compatible, Chen explained, gesturing towards Isaac and Asha. It's as if their bodies are evolving in real time to accommodate their bond. I've never seen anything like it. Before anyone could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Bridge to Captain Rodriguez. The Elysian delegation is ready to come aboard. Acknowledged, Rodriguez replied. She turned to Isaac and Asha, her expression grave. I need you both to stay here for now. Dr. Chen will continue monitoring your condition while I meet with the Elysians. We'll bring them here as soon as it's appropriate. As the captain left to receive the alien envoy, Isaac and Asha exchanged a worried glance. The weight of the moment pressed down on them, the fate of two species balanced precariously on their shoulders. In the docking bay, Captain Rodriguez stood at attention as the airlock cycled open. Captain Lyra stepped through first, her iridescent skin shimmering under the harsh lights. She was followed closely by an older Elysian with deep purple markings, whom Rodriguez assumed to be Dr. Kale. Captain Rodriguez, Lyra said, inclining her head in a gesture of respect. On behalf of the Elysian people, I thank you for receiving us under these extraordinary circumstances. Rodriguez nodded in return. Welcome aboard the Harmony, Captain Lyra. We have much to discuss. As they made their way towards the conference room, Dr. Kale's eyes darted around, taking in every detail of the human ship. His fingers twitched as if longing to examine the unfamiliar technology. Once seated, Lyra wasted no time in addressing the situation. Captain Rodriguez, I must be direct. The events that transpired during your psionic broadcast have had far-reaching consequences for my people. We've observed similar, albeit less intense phenomena among some of our crew members who were exposed to the transmission. Rodriguez leaned forward, her interest piqued. What kind of phenomena? Dr. Kale spoke up, his voice filled with nearly unleashed excitement. Cellular changes, Captain. Subtle alterations in neural pathways. It's as if the broadcast awakened some dormant potential for compatibility between our species. Before Rodriguez could respond, the ship's alarm system blared to life. Red warning lights flashed throughout the corridor as a voice came over the intercom. Medical bay to Captain Rodriguez. We have a situation with Isaac and Asha. Without hesitation, Rodriguez stood. My apologies, but we need to get to medical immediately. As they rushed through the corridors, the ship's systems began to fluctuate. Lights flickered, and holographic displays sputtered in and out of existence. When they reached the medical bay, the sight that greeted them was nothing short of extraordinary. Isaac and Asha floated several feet above their biobeds, encased in a swirling cocoon of brilliant energy. The light pulsed and shimmered, casting ethereal patterns across the walls and floor. Dr. Chen looked up from her instruments, her face pale. Captain, their bodies are undergoing a form of accelerated evolution. The energy field is interfacing with the ship's systems, causing widespread fluctuations. As they watched mesmerized, holographic displays throughout the medical bay flickered to life. Images of human and Elysian history, culture, and biology filled the air around them, creating an impromptu gallery of two civilizations. Dr. Kale stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder. Incredible. They're facilitating a data exchange on a scale I've never seen before. This could revolutionize our understanding of both species. Captain Lyra turned to Rodriguez, her expression a mix of awe and concern. Captain, I believe we have an unprecedented opportunity here. I propose a joint human-Elysian research initiative to study these effects. The potential benefits for both our peoples could be immeasurable. Rodriguez nodded slowly, her mind racing with the implications. Agreed. But first, we need to ensure the safety of my crew and your delegation. Dr. Chen, what's the status of Isaac and Asha? Before Chen could answer, the energy cocoons surrounding the pair began to pulse more rapidly. The ship's systems responded in kind, power levels fluctuating wildly as the Harmony's technology struggled to adapt to the alien influence. Their transformation is accelerating, Chen reported, her fingers flying over her console. I'm detecting a massive buildup of energy. We may be approaching a critical point. As if in response to her words, the cocoon's glow intensified, threatening to engulf the entire medical bay in its radiance. Captain Rodriguez found herself faced with a monumental decision. Attempt to contain the energy surge and potentially halt this unprecedented evolution, or allow the transformation to run its course, risking her ship and crew in the process. The fate of human-Elysian relations hung in the balance as Rodriguez weighed her options, the brilliant light from Isaac and Asha's cocoon casting long shadows across her face. Whatever she decided in the next few moments would shape the future of both species for generations to come. With a deep breath, Captain Rodriguez made her decision. Dr. Chen, evacuate all non-essential personnel from the medical bay immediately. We're going to let this play out. As the crew scrambled to follow her orders, Rodriguez turned to Captain Lyra and Dr. Kale. I hope you're prepared for whatever comes next. We're about to witness history in the making. The energy cocoons surrounding Isaac and Asha pulsed more intensely, expanding to fill the room with a blinding radiance. The ship's systems fluctuated wildly, causing lights to flicker and consoles to spark. Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel's voice crackled over the intercom, strained with urgency. Captain, we're experiencing massive power fluctuations throughout the ship. I'm doing everything I can to stabilize our core systems, but I can't guarantee we won't face a complete shutdown. Do what you can, Patel, Rodriguez replied, her eyes fixed on the swirling energy before her. We need to keep this ship operational. As the transformation accelerated, the energy sphere began to emit waves of power that rippled through the Harmony. Dr. Chen, monitoring from a safe distance, reported the changes she observed in Isaac and Asha's physiology. Captain, their cellular structures are reconfiguring at an unprecedented rate. It's as if their bodies are rewriting their own genetic code in real time. Suddenly, a new voice joined the chorus of activity. Harmony, this is the Zoraki science vessel, Nexus. We've detected unusual energy readings from your ship. Request permission to send our chief scientist, Dr. Zelna, to assist with your situation. Rodriguez exchanged a quick glance with Captain Lyra, who nodded her approval. Permission granted, Nexus. Have your team report to the adjacent lab. Dr. Chen will brief them on arrival. As the Zoraki delegation boarded, the energy sphere containing Isaac and Asha began to contract. The light intensified, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When it finally dissipated, gasps of astonishment filled the room. Isaac and Asha stood before them, transformed. Their skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, a perfect blend of human and Elysian characteristics. Their eyes glowed with an inner light, pulsing in perfect synchronization. Captain, Isaac said, his voice resonating with a new depth. We can sense everything. Asha nodded, her movements fluid and graceful. The ship, the crew, the stars beyond. It's all connected. Dr. Zelna, a tall, willowy alien with bioluminescent tendrils, entered the medical bay with her team. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene before her. Fascinating. May I scan them? At Rodriguez's nod, Dr. Zelna approached Isaac and Asha with her advanced equipment. As she worked, Isaac and Asha began to demonstrate their newfound abilities. Captain, Asha said, turning to face Rodriguez, we can communicate telepathically, not just with each other, but with you as well. May we show you? Before Rodriguez could respond, she felt a gentle presence in her mind. Images and emotions flooded her consciousness. The vastness of space, the interconnectedness of all life, the potential for harmony between species. When it ended, she staggered, overwhelmed by the experience. Incredible, she whispered. Dr. Selna's scans confirmed what they were all witnessing. Their physiology is unlike anything I've ever seen. They possess the ability to adapt to a wide range of environments. The implications for space exploration are profound. As the news spread throughout the ship, crew members who had volunteered for earlier studies began to report strange sensations. Dr. Chen rushed to examine them, her eyes widening as she observed the changes. Captain, the human volunteers are developing mild Elysian traits, iridescent skin patches, enhanced sensory perception, and the Elysian volunteers, they're exhibiting human characteristics. Captain Lyra, who had been silently observing, stepped forward. Captain Rodriguez, I believe we're witnessing the dawn of a new era. I propose we establish a joint research facility to study and develop the potential of this hybrid species. There's an uninhabited planet in a nearby system that would be perfect for such an endeavor. As Rodriguez considered the proposal, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Multiple transmissions from various alien species poured in, some offering assistance, others expressing concern about the rapid evolutionary changes. Captain, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. They've declared a state of emergency and are convening an emergency session of the United Earth Government. Rodriguez turned to Isaac and Asha, an idea forming in her mind. We need ambassadors who can explain what's happened here, beings who embody the potential of this new hybrid species. Will you accept that responsibility? Isaac and Asha exchanged a glance, their eyes pulsing in unison. We will, they said in perfect harmony. As the harmony altered course for Earth, Isaac and Asha retreated to private quarters to explore the depths of their new connection. Their bond transcended mere telepathy. They shared physical sensations, emotions, and even memories with an intimacy that defied description. On the bridge, Captain Rodriguez studied the long-range sensor readings with growing concern. Multiple unidentified ships were converging on their location, their intentions unknown. Yellow alert, she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Shields up. Let's hope our new ambassadors are ready for their first diplomatic challenge. As the Harmony raced towards Earth, carrying its transformed crew and the promise of a new future, the galaxy held its breath. The next few days would determine whether this evolutionary leap would usher in an era of unprecedented cooperation or plunge the region into chaos. For Captain Rodriguez and her crew, the journey ahead promised to be anything but ordinary. As the Harmony raced towards Earth, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Captain Rodriguez's eyes darted between the long-range sensor readings and the concerned faces of her crew. The unidentified ships were closing in rapidly, their intentions still unclear. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Patel called out, his voice tight with urgency. We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. It's Admiral Hayes. Rodriguez nodded, her teeth gritted. Put it through. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on the main view screen, his expression grim. Captain Rodriguez, we've identified the ships converging on your location. It's a coalition of isolationist factions from various species, including human extremists. They're opposed to the hybrid transformation and intend to prevent the Harmony from reaching Earth at all costs. Rodriguez's mind raced, processing the implications of this new threat. Understood, Admiral. We'll take all necessary precautions. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to her crew. Battle stations, prepare for potential hostilities. The ship hummed with activity as crew members rushed to their posts. In the midst of the controlled chaos, Isaac and Asha approached the captain, their eyes pulsing with an inner light. Captain, Isaac began, his voice resonating with newfound depth. We may have a solution that doesn't involve violence. Asha nodded, her movements fluid and graceful. We propose using our enhanced abilities to establish a telepathic link with the approaching ships, similar to the earlier Psionic broadcast. Rodriguez considered their proposal, weighing the risks against the potential benefits. After a moment, she nodded. All right, let's give it a shot, but we'll maintain battle readiness just in case. As the coalition fleet drew nearer, Isaac and Asha were escorted to the modified communications array. They stood side by side, their hands intertwined as technicians made the final adjustments to the equipment. "Ready when you are, Captain," Dr. Chen reported from her console. Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Proceed." Isaac and Asha closed their eyes, focusing their combined mental energies. The air around them seemed to shimmer as they projected a powerful empathic wave towards the approaching vessels. On the bridge, Rodriguez watched the sensor readings intently. The coalition ships maintained their aggressive stance, showing no signs of slowing down. "It's not working," Patel muttered, his fingers hovering over the weapons controls. But then, almost imperceptibly at first, things began to change. The lead ships in the coalition fleet started to slow, their formation becoming less rigid. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from several of the coalition ships. They're confused. Some are reporting strange sensations among their crew members." Rodriguez leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead coalition ship. A human woman with short, graying hair stood at its center, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. "This is Commander Sarah Vance of the Earth First Movement," she said, her voice strained. What are you doing to us?" Rodriguez stepped forward. "Commander Vance, we mean you no harm. What you're experiencing is a telepathic link established by two of our crew members. They're sharing their experiences, emotions, and understanding of the hybrid transformation." Vance's eyes widened, her hand moving to her temple. "I can feel everything, the loss, the fear, but also the hope and the connection. It's overwhelming." As they watched, Vance's demeanor began to change. The hard lines of her face softened, and tears welled in her eyes. "I lost my family during a first contact incident," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "I thought I'd never trust another species again. But this is different." Suddenly, alerts began blaring on both ships. Dr. Chen's voice came over the intercom, filled with excitement and disbelief. "Captain, you need to see this. The hybrid transformation is spreading to the coalition ships. We're detecting cellular changes in volunteers among their crews." Rodriguez turned back to the view screen, where Vance was staring at her own hands in amazement. Patches of iridescent skin were spreading across her arms, pulsing with a soft, inner light. "This is incredible," Vance breathed. She looked up, meeting Rodriguez's gaze. "Captain, I think we need to talk. Permission to come aboard?" Rodriguez nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Permission granted, Commander. Let's see if we can't find a way forward together." As representatives from the coalition ships began to board the Harmony, Rodriguez turned to Isaac and Asha, who had just returned to the bridge. Their eyes were bright with exhaustion and exhilaration. Well done, you two," she said softly. "You may have just prevented a war and ushered in a new era of understanding. Now let's see where this leads us." The Harmony continued its journey towards Earth, no longer alone but surrounded by a fleet of former adversaries turned potential allies. As they approached their home planet, the true impact of the day's events was just beginning to unfold, promising to reshape the future of interstellar relations in ways no one could have predicted.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.